Well, good morning everybody. If we can start the meeting. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concern should raise them now. There we are. Thank you. Well, welcome. First item on the agenda is apologies, and we have apologies from Karen Calder, who's not well. David Minnery is having problems with his daughter, and Simon Jones, as I understand, is going under the knife at the orthopaedic as we speak. So I think they've all got very good reasons why they're not here this morning. Item 2, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Has any members got any pecuniary interests to disclose? No, fine, thank you. Public questions? We have none that great interest the public have in our matters. Matters referred from scrutiny, we have none. So we come on to the final item, which is a very important item, which is the digital transformation programme. This programme has been going on for quite a lengthy time now, and we're coming to the end of the project when we need to make some decisions. So I'm going to hand over to Mike Wood, who is the portfolio holder, to introduce it.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, the matter in front of us today is of exceeding importance to the authority and the future of the authority and to the people we serve. But let us understand that what we are doing this morning at the very outset is that at the end of this discussion, debate, that doing nothing is of absolutely no option whatsoever for this authority. We have to move forward. There's a clear and unequivocal case for us to provide for our customers, that is those who we represent, with an adequate, secure, fully compliant IT system in which they and us can be fully conversant with and have full confidence with. This must be a system that is fully integrated and one that is friendly to all, not just those who are computer literate. One that gives us all, users and providers, the service and information they deserve and need. No better is this demonstrated, Chairman, Leader, that in 1.1, paragraph 1.1 onwards to 1.9 on the report, and especially that in 1.8, which clearly demonstrates to all the reasons why we need to move forward. Chairman, I'm sure that those members who were at the meeting the other afternoon will forgive me if I go through one or two of the points that were given as examples then. I'm sure you've all read the report, Roger and Nigel. I'm sure you've all read the report, and I don't intend to go through it line by line. But if you go first of all to risks as described in the report of 3.3, I'm going to just choose three items out of there, which is the ageing of the equipment, which is no longer fit for purpose, the lack of the core capacity in the service area, and the ongoing issues in relation to disaster recovery and business continuity. I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with a few years ago receiving a little note on your laptop or whatever at home that said to you that Windows XP was no longer fit for purpose and would no longer be supported. I'm sure many of us delayed doing anything about it, but when we did, we found that the alternative was so hungry for power that the computer that we got was of no use whatsoever. I can speak from experience because that's exactly where I stand with my own computer at home. It's fit only for displaying photographs. In respect to the disaster recovery, we have, of course, as members know, moved that to Nuneaton, but for business continuity that doesn't tell the whole story, because whilst we have that backup, we couldn't at the flick of a switch continue doing business tomorrow morning if it went down in full. In 3.5, Chairman, we talk there about the lack of integration into the existing systems, which leads to multiple entries of data and duplication of effort, time wasting, time lost in servicing our customers. And the issues around business functionality and inefficiencies are in the processes, inbuilt into the processes. If we go then to 3.6, the shortcomings of the current operating model have been identified in strategic risks for the authority. And that, of course, is heavily important. In 5.1, the options considered, we commenced with 9, we've worked it down to 4, and now we're down to the last one for your approval. Do nothing is not an option. Each option was put through the scoring matrix and recommended option was identified as the best solution. A combination of a unified platform with some traditional applications was judged to be the best of solutions. In 6.1, Chairman, opportunities, the recommended approach will deliver significant financial benefits, efficiency savings and future-proof the council systems. This because it will be adaptable and scalable up and down. In 6.3, the new operating model will enable mobile and agile working, most important in a council of rural sparsity and long distances of travel. So enable mobile and agile working, meaning that our officers can work away from the office more and more with certainty that the system that they're using is fit for purpose. So I just continue to provide a flexible solution, increase productivity of staff in a number of ways, including removing areas of duplication across the multiple systems that we currently use, improving effectiveness of systems and increasing the quality of management information. In 6.3, the recommendation, the new operating model will enable mobile and agile working. Have I just gone through that? Yeah, yes, I have gone through that. Just sorry about that, Jen. I'm reading the script. So in the financial implications, and of course this is where a number of members will wish to ask some questions. There will be a one-off requirement for investment in a gross sum, some 21.324 million over 5 years. In 8.8, we're forecasting to be a total cashable benefit of 4.161 million and non-cashable benefits of 25.357 million, giving a return of investment over 3 years. It's important, Chairman, to understand that in the capital investment that we are making, it is effectively a spend to save and create revenue. In 8.8, there are forecasts to be total cashable benefits of 4.161 million and non-cashable benefits of 25.857, giving a return over the 3 years, but then going on to the return of investment over 5 to 7 years will be significantly higher than current estimates of benefits that can be converted from non-cashable to cashable are conservatively estimated at 35% of total. If it is possible, the conversion could be nearer to 80%. But let's work on the basis of the 35%. We'll be pleasantly surprised in the future. In 8.12 and 8.13, the funding for the programme can be provided from internal borrowing. It is anticipated advantage can be taken of the facility in this year's local government settlement to divert capital spend from capital receipts to programme. Further refinement of the proposal will be required to determine the actual level of spend that could be diverted. Indeed, I'm going to go back to 2.1, which are the recommendations. I'm going to move to 12223 be adopted, but divert you to the first part of 2.1, where the programme recommends the Cabinet confirms and approves the preferred approach described in the report, but then to produce a final business case in support of the operational and financial implications. Chairman, I move that and request a supporter, a seconder, and advise that we have both Margaret Price and Paul here who've drawn most parts of this report to answer specific questions on technicalities and also any technicalities on the financing. And of course we also have James alongside here to assist. I so move.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Sorry, I'm happy to second, but I'd also like to make some questions.
That's fine. We have to have seconded before we speak. Okay, I would just like to say one thing virtually to the press, because I know there is some confusion outside about the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure, and some people don't understand why we're having to make draconian cuts in our revenue budgets, and yet here we're talking about spending several £1 million on capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is basically a one-off expenditure which is used to facilitate revenue reductions if it's applied properly, so that by spending money now we will reduce the revenue expenditure in future years quite considerably. So it has to be looked at in the long-term scenario about spending a lot of money now in order to save, which is very important to this authority, to save revenue savings in the future. We all know in 2020 rate support grant is going to disappear, and we're going to live on income, council tax and business rates. Therefore it's absolutely essential that we run this authority in such a way as to reduce our running costs over a long period. And what this spending the money now does that. So we're spending capital money to reduce the revenue budget in future years, and I think that's a very important point that we need to get out to the people outside so they can understand the rationale and what we're actually doing. Martin.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, thank you to Michael for the report, and I did second, because I do feel it's appropriate that we need to do this. But I do want to make a couple of points first. I think possibly it would be better from a context point of view, not so much for us but for the public to understand, would have been to give us some information about how many systems we currently have and different programs that we have. And that really makes you understand then what the issues are and the problems that we've got. So, and there are many programs and many options that we've got. I thought that the presentation on Monday was a really useful exercise for all those that attended. It showed you the depth that the people have gone into in investigating the options that were available before they come to the conclusions they came to. So that's why I feel comfortable with it. There's just a couple of things that I do need to have clarification on. I think Michael, probably more from technical expert rather than yourself. My understanding is that where some of the savings come, that we, rather than having 5 different systems where you put all the same data in, this one does it for everybody, or you put one input once. But is the system based on a people-based system or a building-based system, or both? That would be my first question, which I think is interesting. The report makes it quite clear that it's for the whole of the council and for our stakeholders as well. But I do want, again, clarification that when we say about for the whole of the council, are we talking for every department? Will it interface with every department that we've got? Clearly some programmes in some departments are already there, they're already contracted out, so there may be a period of time that we can't do all in one go. So if I can just have clarity around those, an explanation would be useful.
Can I ask Paul if he can come forward and sit, because he's been responsible for much of this report.
I think best if you join us for this item, sir.
First of all, thank you, Councillor Wood, for summarising the programme well and highlighting the specific points that we need to look at today. So you asked 2 questions, I believe. The first of all is whether this is people or a building. I would look at it primarily as a process and data programme.
Okay.
It is about making processes more efficient by eliminating duplication of entry and making sure the data is only held once, but is seen by every system it needs to. At the moment, we have a view of citizens within the county, and we have a number of views depending on how they have contacted us. We have differing views in terms of number of people who work for the organisation, and it's that elimination of both the duplication of data, but making sure the data is accurate, that is one of the key drivers behind the system. And it is about processes, so rather than people or buildings. And to go on to the second part of your question, it is, as you said, there are a number of applications and software within this council. This approach, which is a combination of unified and traditional approach, is to look at every single IT application that exists, and it does cover the entire business suite. It is sometimes seen as an IT program. I would see this as a business program, so it will touch upon HR and finance, but even the smaller but nevertheless significant systems such as births, marriages and death, for example, will all be covered within this solution that we're proposing.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
Thank you, Leader. A couple of points I'd like to make, really. One is a plea, really, I suppose, and that is that I accept the rigour that's going to be required to manage what will be a complex implementation of the system. But I would appeal those members leading the process to concentrate both on our internal and our external customers and their needs at the absolute forefront and the foremost of this process, because it's only by making sure that we provide them with the very best support that we're going to get the best out of the system. And I'm particularly thinking of those people who currently, under our current arrangements, have difficulty accessing services, perhaps because they've got a disability of some sort or because they struggle to get to the places where we provide services. And I would particularly want to be reassured that work will be done to make sure that that area is concentrated on particularly, whilst accepting that those, as I would call them, digital by default users, my teenage sons would be a good example of that, that we provide every opportunity for their access to be streamlined as possible. The other thing that I'm conscious of is that some pointers being made quite rightly in the press around the fact that our proposals and the savings that we'll derive from this investment will see a reduction both in staff roles and potentially posts within the organisation. And I'd just like to be confident that those individuals will get the best support possible to find alternative roles, either inside or outside of the council.
Thank you. Stuart?
Thanks, Chairman. I'm sorry I could not attend the briefing on Monday, so if I'm asking a question now that's already been asked, I do apologise. But from my role as a peer assessor, every council that I've been to so far has had problems with IT. Everyone, and it's the same with fire and rescue services as well. I suppose I'm asking the question, which is probably rather stupid, but is there a council or an organisation in the UK that is using a system that is robust, that is working efficiently, that we can look at to actually duplicate? I assume this has already been looked into, but I need to ask that question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that question. One of the reasons I've been brought in is because of my experiences with other councils elsewhere. Primarily I work with Surrey County Council and Cardiff City Council. Both of those programmes delivered significant savings. In fact, Surrey won the award for the best ERP system brought into play in Europe in 2006. And as it's now 10 years on from what Surrey implemented, I can confidently say that it achieved the savings they targeted, which were 52 million based against a £27 million cost. And therefore they have systems in place that 10 years on are still being used to run the back office systems employed by Surrey. It is slightly different to here in as much as that was very much targeted at back office systems and a shared service centre. But nevertheless, it has delivered a solution that is adequate for the council and delivers benefits. Where we are different from that is the world has moved on and we now have more innovative solutions available within IT, and the solution that's being proposed here takes advantage of those innovations within IT going forward.
Thank you.
Cecilia?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Slightly following on from what Stuart has said, is this a set of systems that are being designed for the council as it is at present? Or is it being designed for the council as we should hope to see it going forward? That's point one. Second of all, will it have the flexibilities enshrined within it which will enable it to cope with further arrangements that we may come to in terms of possibly working with other local authorities, working with other outside organisations? Will it be able to cope with that?
I'll ask Clive to answer.
The answer's to Cecilia's question is also going to partly answer Stuart's question. We have and can look at other authorities as of now, and the truth is our systems now do work. Although people have issues with them, they do work, they function most of the time, but they could do so much more if we modernise them. In looking at other councils, what we've been thinking through and what Paul has presented is where will we be in a few years' time, and to give us maximum flexibility, both in terms of how we engage our workforce now, but what parts of the system can we expand or stand down. So at the moment where we've got different blocks of the system, let's say our finance and HR and social care systems don't talk to each other, what we're talking about is integrating all of those so that they do. And then in the future, if we share or combine with other authorities, we've got maximum flexibility to bolt on, unbolt, continue to pay, don't pay anymore for parts of the system as and when we use. So what we're looking at is maximum flexibility with the data inputted once and shared as many times as possible. It'll also give us the opportunity to share systems and share the management of systems with other authorities. We can share procurement with other authorities. And I think we're with a body of local authorities who are looking at the future, and in the next phase there may be opportunities to combine with others to procure and see how we get the best advantage by working together on a system that's for the future, not as is now, because we're absolutely certain that the council won't be like it is now in 3 or 4 years' time. This system allows that flexibility.
I think that's the rationale actually for doing the system. But we have to, it's quite clear that we have to start developing methods of delivering a sustainable revenue budget into the future, because we're going to be very restricted on the amount of resources we can use to deliver services. And I'm quite clear on this, that by spending money now, we're going to help in delivering that sustainable long-term revenue budget that we'll need into the future. If we don't do it now, I think a couple of years down the line, we're going to be absolutely in immense difficulties, because things move on and we've got to move on with it. So, okay, anybody else? Roger first, then Madge.
Thank you, Chairman. Addressing the report, and first comment, some around the table may not find, but I pick up Michael's comments on page 3 and 3.3 and the previous lack of investment in ICT core strategy. I've got to lay it around this table. The lack of investment in the past since 2009 in IT has been abysmal. But to pass on from that, if I go on to page 5, picking up again a comment from a Cabinet member, in 6.2, the recommended approach is a customer-focused strategy. I would hope we do not lose contact, face-to-face contact with those more vulnerable ones, because those are the ones who need our help, and they may not necessarily have IT equipment be able to communicate via IT. So whatever the IT system is, there still needs to be a face-to-face system in it. Going further on page 8, in 8.11, I see the investment that's needed in the first 2 years. If we discount the base budget, there still needs to be 18, 19 million there that would have to be self-financed. Plus the money that came forward last week in the Cabinet for the social care, it pushes us up to what, 22 million, something like that? That will have revenue consequences, because that money will no longer be in the bank earning interest. So there will be revenue consequences in the first 2 years especially, and in 2017. I'm taking year 0 as this year, year 1 as 2017. So there's what, £20 million in cash will no longer be at the bank earning interest for us. So that revenue that would have helped will no longer be there. And the cashable savings there, that is there for what, another £500,000. Is that going to be further cuts that are going to be made in the departmental budget, which went through council in February? Because again, that is reductions in staff, revenue, whatever you want. But I also note at the end, finally, in 2.1, the business case, the details, will that come back to Cabinet to council or what? I'm not sure. Thank you, Chairman.
good summary.
Finish it.
Yeah, okay. I'll pick some of those questions up, Roger, and James may want to jump in with more of the detail. In terms of the lack of investment, we do rent our systems, and they do come to the end of contracts. And most of our systems come to the end of their contract in a year's time or so. They're not all absolutely coterminous, but they are more or less. And part of what we have done to manage that planned endpoint is to get those contracts aligned, giving us the opportunity to replace the whole system, which we know we have to do. So as Paul said, doing nothing is not an option. We can't continue with what we've got. In many cases, what we've got is not supported or will continue beyond the life of the contract, so we are having to renew. So it is the right time to invest going forward, and because this is key architecture, and even with this investment, we're not looking to replace every year. There are updates, but this is an investment now for the next 5, maybe 10 years, probably ideally 7 years, but it is a long-term investment. In terms of the face-to-face activity, we do recognise that a lot of our work is about dealing with people face-to-face, and through the technologies available, through making people mobile, agile, they can access our systems out there. Our frontline workers should be able to do face-to-face more easily, supported by the technology, knowing that they've got information readily at hand, and information that they put in there and then will go directly into the system and will be accurate and will be a correct record. So it should enhance face-to-face, although, and Lee did refer to it earlier, there are a lot of our customers that would prefer in their daily lives not to do face-to-face but to do their business online. Can you pay your council tax online? Can you be communicated digitally? Can we take out a lot of the postage and transactions that are done manually now that cost a fortune and can be done in an automated way more cheaply? And the answer is this system will do that and our current systems can't. You're right that it is an 18 million investment and that there are, even in internal borrowing, some revenue consequences for that, but these are built into the calculations, and overall there's revenue savings. So by doing this, we are making more revenue available despite the fact that we are borrowing, and we have added, as I said, the consequence of that into the calculation that is brought forward. In terms of cashable savings, we do need to make savings. The council's very focused on what we need to do to support the front line of our workers, and in the plan that you referred to that was approved previously by Cabinet and Council Financial Strategy, the back office costs are planned to reduce by 50%. The only way that we can reduce back office costs is by having the systems and processes that enable us to work in a more efficient way, and this system will deliver that kind of changes. Not only will it deliver more automated back office and it will work in a more reliable way, but also it should empower the front line staff to work in a different way, which again will give greater functionality, enhance their jobs, but also will save money.
I think it's clear from what Lee was saying actually today and the other day. I think it's quite clear we give the assurances that there will be people who won't be able to access the system, and the system must be enabled to facilitate those kind of people. I'm absolutely with Lee on this. The whole thing's got to be based by servicing our customers. And if we can service our customers in a better way and still deliver you revenue savings, which then can be spent on delivering more services elsewhere, that's the obvious no-brainer way forward, I think. So, right, so I've got Magna, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Lee in particular because of social services. And what I'd like to be assured is that the outlying schools that are still with us, or the Cabinet use us, is that the system is robust enough for them to have complete confidence in what's there. We have, well, there's one in my patch and one next door. 2 of the libraries that are run by other organisations, social enterprises if you like, have a hub there which people can go to. And indeed, the one in Tilbury, I can only say, does everything from blue badge to shotgun certificates, which is quite useful from time to time. I do my best. What I'm really saying to you is that I want to be sure that at the very, very localist level, that there is a system which is strong and which is secure. And I'm not a lover of IT. It hasn't come to me naturally, I have to say. I find all the icons, for instance, on my iPad, I have no idea what they're all for. I get little messages, will I do this, will I do that, will I do that? I don't even know what they're talking about, to be perfectly honest. So I always click no, and I'm sure that can't be right. However, what I'm saying to you is, we need to have some straightforward system. Keep it as simple as you can. I know it's wonderful technology, and I acknowledge that, but please keep it simple. You've been very good, Chairman, with cooperating with the town and parish councils. And one thing they will be asking for fairly soon will be a breakdown of the costs, which they might contribute to through their sale or through work precept or whatever it is. But they want a breakdown of those costs. And it's really, really important that they have some sort of figure. I've been to 2 parish council annual meetings in the last week, and the chairman have very kindly put it to the public that, you know, shall we put the precept up? If we do, and we were to take over this and we were to take over that, it will cost you X pence, which it usually is per week. And the public that were there, and one had got about 20 odd there, one of my really small parishes, which already do a sterling job with the Lensman scheme, they all agreed because they could see the reason why. So I understand about the back office and all that business, but Joe Bloggs out there really doesn't care about the back office. What he wants to know is if he wants a blue badge, and I use that as an example, he can go somewhere or he can do it online. And the other thing, when you get online, and there will be a form there, sometimes you need to print it off. I've not yet found a way to print it off. I'm sure it's me. All I'm saying is that, well, you know, life's like that. There should be a big thing, print off, so that they know where they've got to go. Because I'm sure there are other people more inept than I am.
Yeah. Before I ask Clive to reply, I think there's going to be an element of training in all this as well. So,
well, to answer the leader's question immediately, there's a huge amount of training. This will change the way that the whole of the council works. And if we don't do that, we won't get the benefits out of the system. And I think, Madge, you've asked some interesting questions there. It gives me partly an opportunity to explain how systems are configured, and I'll try and do that as simply as possible. But our systems that we operate in the council, like our finance, our HR system, our social care, are by and large ours, and others outside don't have access to them because it would give security issues if they did that. That's how they're currently configured. So schools, they have their own systems, but what we do provide to school by buying things together is the broadband infrastructure. So if we all group together to buy our broadband, we don't do that. We all buy it from BT or Virgin or wherever we buy it from. But if we all group together, we might get a better deal if we went as a consortium. And that's what we do with schools. We get a better deal for them on broadband by clubbing together. Some schools take advantage of that and others don't, and others will want to stay and others will move on. That's the nature of buying that kind of broadband service. But I think in talking about town and parish councils, firstly I would say that where we're delivering services and we're having conversations, we're not foisting these things on town and parish councils, but where we're having conversations about them maybe picking up those services, we are already clear on what those services cost us, and that information has been with town and parish councils for some time. I keep hearing that it's not, but I know because we passed over spreadsheets, and I've done that, and George can back me up, they do know what the costs of those services are to run in Shropshire Council. Of course they may run them differently, and that may change the costs and otherwise increase or decrease them. But I think coming back to IT, you put your finger on a really interesting opportunity with the technology that we're proposing going forward, because although I've said that we at the moment would need to keep our own systems exclusive to us because of security, with new systems and changed levels of security, there is the opportunity to give others controlled access to our system. So what would that mean, for example, if we've got town and parish councils running library systems, do we really want them to go out and buy a library IT system and have 20 or 30 of those running across the county when one would do it quite nicely? No, we don't, but through this new technology we would be able to give them controlled access to our system where the data would be ours, they would view the data that's theirs that they would need to and be able to manipulate it. So that's a good example how in the future, and the question was asked by Cecilia, how will this make us more able to work with other organisations, be they town and parish councils, be they other larger authorities, and we are talking to the NHS and other public sector organisations about how we can share data. So coming back to the adult social care world, and Lee's been quite clear, these systems are all configured about the customer and about the user. They're not about the system per se. The systems are only there to serve what we need to do with them. But another good example would be, which we can't do at the moment, is how in a secure environment could we share information about from GPs through to the NHS, through to the adult social care world. So only those who are authorised can read, but we can notice what's going on for people, give us better predictive capability. So ideally, we are, and this is where our biggest cost is in the council and in the NHS and across Shropshire, this goes really to the heart of how we can really tackle our issues. If we can put that data together and produce better intelligence and understand who is at the edge of care, that we can stop before they need hospital, before they need social care, by doing simple interventions. And out there, it is about social interaction, it's about people feeling part of society. We know that Shropshire is one of the loneliest places. We've got issues of falls, which we know we can predict. We've done that before in Church Stretton. And we've got issues of predicting those who are going to suffer from respiratory illness, for example. So these are all things that are causing people to require services that if we can intervene earlier through the data and intelligence that this system will give us the opportunity to produce, that will enable us to further drive out costs by doing the right work, so we don't have to do the more intensive work that we don't want to do later on. So in summary, these systems are configured in a way to be able to give safe and controlled access to a number of partners, including communities out there, in a way that our current systems just will not allow.
Okay, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Do want to come back about this paper, but if I can pick up one of the things about the Chief Executive. Parish councils do not know the costs that they may be incurring next year. They know the spreadsheet that was issued, but I'm being told that rights of way and that sort of thing, they have no idea what that is going to be. And I know officers are officers are obtaining the different costs to do it, but they're concentrating on town councils at present, which are the largest ones. Smaller parishes will come in quite late. Smaller parishes meet less often, so there may well be a problem in meeting the September deadline unless things more resources if possible be put into it. But to come back to this paper about the business case, goes through here, goes through council, what is the time scale and what will be happening after that?
Well, it will be going to council in July for the council to
That's the business case change.
yeah, to approve it. Before I ask George to answer your question on parish councils, I can say I know that some parish councils said they haven't had the information, and the reason some of the smaller ones haven't had it because they haven't got any libraries and they haven't got any grass cutting actually, so it really won't affect them. But they should be looking at their towns and their market towns about what facilities they use of those and contribute towards those. George, you want to say something about it?
Just briefly, you're right, Roger. I think is the first thing to say that there's 150 parish councils plus across the county, and so we have to start somewhere. So we have started with a larger market town. So that's absolutely right what you're saying. But we are working it through quite quickly now. So we do anticipate getting that information out to the parishes that do need that information and those that are keen to see that information, hopefully in the before the end of this month, basically, before the end of May. So it shouldn't delay things too much. But you are right, and we are working through that as quickly as possible with the teams that we've got.
Yeah. Clive, just going to update you on what's going to happen next with this paper.
That's a great question, Roger, in terms of what happens next. And as the paper demonstrates, we've gone from a large range of options, exploring things with other councils, looking at where the future will be, not the as is now. That narrowed down to 9 initially, but you can't keep working and exploring on 9 systems. It's just too much work to do. And in some ways, we've been criticised for having consultant teams looking at this. We narrowed it down to 4. Those are the 4 options that are had more work done on them and are in the paper. And what this paper ideally will conclude is narrowing that down to 1 option now, that we can do the real work to make sure the costs are as we have stated here. We think that those costs are likely to be the maximum, and therefore by working with other authorities and thinking about procurement, we can bring those costs down further, but also by giving greater scrutiny to how we can change the operation of the organisation. We can probably also look at how we drive out further benefits. So the next phase will look at how we can assemble one of the options and to bring back a more accurate financial forecast, which should be better on 2 fronts. It should bring the costs down of buying the kit, and it should increase the benefits that we've outlined to date. So this is a starting point, and we hope to improve on that over the next 6 months, leading to a point where by the time we come back again, there will be a clear decision put on the table about this is the systems we would buy, this is how we could procure it, and then we can get on at that point to implementing the new systems alongside decommissioning the existing systems. So that will take us 6 months to do the work on this system, think about the commissioning, decommissioning process, and in a year's time we'll be making the transition from old to new systems. And that won't be done all in one go. It will be done in a careful and planned way so that we get the migration in a controlled way and users can keep using systems, whether they're old or new or part in between.
Okay. Anybody else? Right, nobody else indicated they want to speak, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the proposition, please show. Right. Anybody against? That's carried. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Thank you.